Welcome back to Reason Solutions. I'm your host, Marc Reason, and today we sit down with a man who has dedicated his life to young people in Philadelphia inside of the most important and most challenging institution in any community, the public school. Dr. Leroy Hall Jr. has walked these halls as a student, as an educator, as a leader. He has seen this system from every angle, and today he brings all of that experience, wisdom, and commitment directly to you. This conversation covers his journey, his vision, his legacy, the real work that happens every single day behind the scenes of school buildings. So let us begin. Intro. Dr. Hall, welcome to the Reason Solution. I've watched and I've seen how you have had a dramatic impact, not only on the school students, the staff, but also my personal administration growth. I appreciate you taking your time. And let us begin. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, no, I just want to say I appreciate it. You did a great job introducing me. I think this is an awesome platform you've put together. And I look forward to many more episodes, man. I'm just honored to be here. So ready whenever you are, brother.
So was there a moment as a student, good or bad, that you think about even now when you're making decisions as a principal?
Is there a moment as a student that I decided say that again.
So was there a moment as a student, when you were a student, good or bad, that happened to you in the classroom that you reflect on as you're dealing with students now as a principal?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, it's like education was my way out, period, point blank the end. I mean, long story short, when you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there's certain things that people need in order to feel comfortable and reach their highest self, right? So you have safety, food, shelter, things of that nature. Now, love was not lacking at my house, but the resources were. So ultimately, I needed a safe place, a place where I could be well taken care of as far as nutritionally, have role models around me that can help me see my higher self and things of that nature. And I feel like ultimately, growing up in poverty, school provided that place for me, right? So school was the outlet that I used to make sure that I escaped from poverty. So as a principal, I realized that some of our kids are coming to school with trauma. Some of our kids are coming to school, not feeling like there's another avenue other than some illegal activity. Some people are coming not with the hope and the desire to progress. Well, they have the hope, they just don't see it, right? And they can't feel it and touch it. So I realized that our impact on the ground can literally transform people's lives. And I feel that way because it's transformed my life. So as a school principal, I realized I got to give every child every opportunity possible and then some to be their best self, because, sometimes they just need that support and they need that environment where they feel like they can flourish. And we want to, provide that environment. And we have, thankfully.
So true. Was there a specific person or moment that pulled you toward education, or did you always know that this was a path of calling for you over time?
So my dream, I have two dreams. I had two dreams growing up. My two dreams was to be Reggie Miller and go to the NBA and the teacher.
Play in the garden, huh?
To play in the garden, exactly, and tell Spike Lee that they were choking. But no. But sixth grade was a transformational year for me because I had a teacher by the name of Mr. Stranko. Now, Jim Stranko at Rogers Middle School in Garfield, which is the hood in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right? So you have these students coming from all over the city, coming to Rogers Creative and Performing Arts in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Garfield in the neighborhood. And Mr. Stranko is a sixth grade white male teacher. And he was the social studies teacher and the basketball coach. So you have two of my dreams. You got basketball, which is my first dream. First dream is basketball. So when I get there sixth grade, of course, I'm like, I gotta, because Rogers is only 6th to 8th grade. So I was like, I gotta play basketball. So I got on the basketball team. Basketball coach is Mr. Stranko, the social studies teacher. Mr. Stranko is a white guy who speaks like Tim Wise. You know Tim Wise. Yeah, he keeps it real. He's the one who tells us, that this land was Native American land and that, it was stolen. And he tells us about Nelson Mandela and the apartheid and so he's teaching us these things. And I'm like, man, this is interesting. Not only is he telling us the truth of America and giving us an opportunity to give our opinions and speaking to us like we're intellectuals, but he's also the basketball coach. So at that point, I said, oh, this dude is the coolest dude walking this planet. So I said, okay, I want to be a teacher. So my two dreams from that day was I'm going to be either a teacher or an NBA player. I tried to put my eggs into both baskets, ended up, fortunately becoming an educator. So
that's a great transition. So walk us through your career journey from your very first position in education into where we're at now.
Absolutely. So I taught for 8 years in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, at a school called Manchester Academic Charter School. So I graduated in 2003. I started teaching 2003, right after that summer. So I graduated in May. I worked a summer program that summer at Manchester Academic Charter School on the north side in Pittsburgh. Now, just like I really kind of try to, and both of us try to tell, educators, substitutes, people that are coming in, what do they call it at the end of the year? The special assignment teachers. Mm-hmm. You have to use every opportunity to show your professionalism and show your impact, right? So during that summer, I was a summer camp. Well, I wasn't a summer camp. It was like summer school. I was summer camp, like school leader, meaning I had to like walk the kids from course to course. And then I had to also teach, some courses over the summer. During that time, my lines were super tight. Like it was my time to apply everything. I had all these years of education, right? I had my chance to finally show I was a professional. Man, I was taking it so serious. Kids were super quiet in the lines. Kids were, you come into my class, it was classroom management, effective instruction. There was a rapport. So the principal, Voss Skumas, who's still one of my mentors to this day, comes to me at the end of the summer. He was like, hey, man, you think about teaching in the fall? I said, what do I think about teaching? So I got that start. So I got the start. Real quick, interesting thing, because I tell my kids and our students and, anybody listening to this, you got to take advantage of those opportunities. So I was originally, long part of the first part of the story is I was originally hired as a classroom assistant. Okay. So I shined in the summer. And he said, hey, how do we think about teaching in the summer? I said, okay, in the fall. I said, cool. He said, we're going to bring you back as a classroom assistant because we need someone to work under this other guy named Mr. Orr. Mr. Orr, I tell you all the stories about Mr. Orr. Mr. Orr, awesome math teacher. But Mr. Orr was working for a company called NCR. And there was a week in between Mr. Orr coming back and the beginning of the school year. So for 1 week, I was going to have to be the lead teacher in this math class until Mr. Orr came back because he was finishing up his work at NCR, had 1 week in between the beginning of the school year for the students and him starting to, work actively at Max. So I had 1 week. During that 1 week, same approach. I'm out there trying to kill it. So, lines tight, classroom management tight. The principal comes to me. He's like, listen. He's like, man, basically in a nutshell, now he didn't say his exact things if he ever sees this. He didn't say his exact things, but he basically said, man, you're shining too much. He's like, you're shining too much.
Take it down, something. Take it down.
He's like, it was a good thing. He's like, you're shining too much, man. We can't keep you as an aide. He's like, we're going to split up that class and we're going to make it because the class was like 30 kids or something like that. And, at these time, this is 2003. So charter school had different, not as many points that they had to hit now. So they could create smaller classes if they wanted to.
That was the whole original purpose of charter schools.
Exactly. It was not 100%. So he was like, nope, we're splitting it. So boom, you got 15 and 15. So they actually changed me from a teacher assistant to a teacher. I actually never worked as a teacher assistant. So what happened was after that first week, they came back. And I remember I'm a young whippersnapper. I'm 23. And then it hit me as I'm driving home one day. I'm like, that means my contract's supposed to change. So I went in there.
Like, wait a minute.
Bag. Then I was like, what did I just do? I said, I just signed up to be a teacher. I'm driving home. I'm like, hold up, man. We didn't even discuss salary, nothing. So I go back in there. He's like, yeah, Hall, you got me. He's like, you're right. And he was always cool. He was never trying to be a snake, but it was like, wasn't the forefront of his mind for whatever reason. So I got a new contract, got a teacher contract, and became a teacher right there. Boom. So 8 years. Okay, so I taught there for 8 years. 2008, I went to Pitt to get my master's degree. Skumas and Max was super supportive of that. They even let me go to Harvard to do a art of leadership academy that teaches, aspiring principals how to sharpen up their skills, either, established principals and ones with, time in to sharpen up their skills or, introducing concepts to, principals that are coming into the field. So I got a chance to do that. Yeah.
It's funny. We have I didn't know this all the time we worked together. I went to Harvard for that program too.
Yeah. And you have this thought, and then like quick side note, we'll get back to the other thing. But when you go to Harvard, two things that I picked up from that time. First is you think everyone's going to be walking around with a sweater tied around their neck. And everybody's going to be walking around with these rugby oars, right? Like, so you think everybody's walking around with rugby oars. And you go up there and these people are down to earth. These people are very I don't even know if we like the term anymore, but woke, you know what I mean? They're really into with what, how people inequities need to be covered, people of color and leadership. There's a lot of things. That's number one. Number two, that first day I was reserved Leroy. Like I was like observant Leroy. Remember, I was a teacher at the time. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of assistant principals, a lot of principals there. So I'm Leroy, quietly. No. I'm like reserved, observant Leroy almost. Second day, I was Leroy. oh no, we're going to put together this treehouse. I'm one of the people who's going to jump up first. Like, no, and that also showed me, and in that time, it let me know early on, 2008, that I was like, yo, you could be a leader in any room. You could be a leader at Harvard. You can be a leader if you're going to, when we went to Howard for our conference, I'm in there and I'm politicking. It's like your leadership skills transfer to all these other places, even if you feel like those places are like the moon. So I did that. Okay, so then my last year at Max, once again, Skumas is interested in helping people grow, which is a lot of where my leadership style came from. So he allowed me to be director of external affairs the second half of the day. So first half of the day, I would teach math. Second half of the day, I became I was an administrator, which is basically, I had to do lunch duty. Like that was the new task. I did have to pick up a lunch duty. Then in the afternoon, I had office hours to work on communications for the school. So I put together a newsletter for the school. I was putting together partnership meetings for the school. I was putting together family nights for the school. I had us, in local, we had like different setups in different local stores and putting out brochures and flyers and just trying to get our name out there. So it was my first taste of being a school administrator. Then it was time to pay the piper. My wife is from Philadelphia. We were always discussing ever since undergrad where we met that we were going to be moving further east after, we graduated because I'm from Pittsburgh. She's from Philly. So we planned on moving to Jersey, but we ended up in Philly because that's where her family still was and we had small kids. So we moved to the suburbs of Philly. Lansdale, Montgomery County, basically. So anyway, so we did that, and I started working at North Philadelphia Waukesha Charter School. Waukesha Charter School, awesome students, some super awesome teachers. We tapped into the higher angels of our students, and they see themselves as scholars no matter what trials and tribulations they went through. When you talk to people as though they have worth, and they all do, believing it and realizing that, and they step in.
Sometimes it's the first time that somebody even spoken to them in that kind of positive affirmation.
Absolutely. So after that year, I was in charge of it. I was the assessment coordinator there. So I was in charge of making sure that students and teachers, are using their data, their benchmark data to drive instruction. I was in there ambitiously giving them feedback, even though that wasn't really my role. They were allowing me to do it and they were okay with it. The teachers actually were desiring it because they weren't getting a lot of that coaching at the time. And we ended up with number 8 in the state for performance gains from PenCan. Okay. So after that 1 year, and one thing that was major at Max is the year before I got there and Mr. Orr got there was Mr. Voss Skumas is the principal's first year. The year before Voss Skumas got to Max was the school was on the warning list from the charter, basically charter police, the charter department for PA. Yeah. And the PA, the Department of Ed, and they were about to close. From there, Mr. Skumas brought me in, brought Mr. Oren, who was a major key to this, brought in some other superstars, and they already had a solid staff. It was almost like they were missing, how NBA teams are like missing a piece or two, like you need a Draymond Green or a Ron Artest or something.
Like the Sixers are missing on LeBron James right now.
Like the Sixers, yeah, how they're missing LeBron right now. Yeah, you get LeBron, you're good. That's what it was, and yeah, there you go. I like that though. So hopefully, so they got LeBron and a couple other cats, right? And then we ended up getting the blue ribbon in 2008. So we did an awesome job there. So anyway, we did their blue ribbon there, went to Waukesha, did number 8 PenCan, number 8 in the state for performance gains off PSSA, just for more growth. And then I went to Kepler Charter School for 2 years. Kepler is the African-centered education school and A school. That was so much growth for me because I got an opportunity to see education from a different lens. Because as you know, what African-centered education does is it teaches World War II, but it teaches it from the lens of the African-American soldiers. What were the black soldiers feeling like, right? What, during these times, what was happening? What's happening in the new world when it comes to, what's the lens?
It puts them in the frame because 100%. Normally they're not in the frame. Yeah.
Exactly. So when we're talking about poetry, we're talking about black poets. You know what I mean? We're not mentioning other poetry, but we're also talking about, black writers, August Wilson. We're not just talking about Shakespeare and stuff like that. So that was really, really, because we're all exposed in education to African-American history and black history. You're not engulfed in it, and you're sure as heck not absorbing it daily, like you're absorbing everything else. So that was awesome. Then I came to Houston and been the principal there for 12 years, going into my 13th year at Houston. Awesome community school. When we first went there was not as much neighborhood buy-in as we wanted. And, we got a opportunity to grow that school from 330 students to about 504 students. Fluctuates from back here and there. So we've, gained at least over 100 and probably 150 families to come to Houston over time. So that's my educational journey at that time. And I, as far as education, my personal education, I got my bachelor's from IUP, master's from Pitt, and finished my doctorate at Drexel last year. So I'm actually been a year now. I've been a Dr. Hall. Thank the Lord Jesus Christ.
So you spoke on it a little bit, but I want to make sure we pinpoint it. You said in previous positions, like when you were doing administration, you did a lot of community outreach. Was that the genesis on how you did that community outreach at Henry Houston?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that started at Manchester Academic Charter School. The power of Max, which was in Pittsburgh, my first school where I taught at, was the community was involved. So you had people that lived in the community, Manchester, that worked in the community. You had people from the teaching staff that lived in the community putting their kids to school. So like when you say you're a community school, are you just leeching off the community? Are you just providing a service to their kids, but you don't think the adults are worthy of working in the environment? Do you feel like they don't have value? We feel like they have value, right? Like at Houston, we feel like they have value. We feel like the community members have to be part of the discussion. So one of the things you want to see is one of the things that we've talked about before is like start, stop, keep, right? So you come into an environment and you do some type of needs assessment. That's one of the first things I did. I sat down, put out an email to community members, people that I knew were influential that could put out to their newsletters and things like that, or, their mail list. And it said basically, hey, I'm Principal Hall. I'm happy to be at Houston. I'd love to have a discussion with you. So I said that to the teachers, sent it out to a couple community members, brought them in. Start, stop, keep. What's the first thing that, you wanted to start at Houston? Something that needs to begin. What's something that needs to stop at Houston? Something that didn't work. Something that you want to keep at Houston, something that's going great. This is what Dr. Kolsky taught us as first-year teachers is the listening tour. So I had a listening tour. And from that listening tour, I gathered information as to where is the direction that this community would like to see. My interest was not in targeting a certain demographic to come back to the school. My interest was creating an institution that had such quality education that whoever fit the description of wanting their kid to have a quality education came to our school. And that was it, right? So that's what we built, and we're, excited about that.
Okay. So how do you handle the moments when the culture breaks down, when trust gets tested inside the building? Like say, okay, we put these practices and procedures and protocols in place, and you can see by your regular walkthroughs or just the feel by the vibe of the building that people are not trusting the process because they're either not implementing what we have in place already, or they're bringing their own change to something that they haven't even tried to use what's been working already. So they basically saying, hey, I'm gonna do it my way, and this is how it's gonna happen, even in the classroom or administration or just a non-instructional people in the building.
I think there's like this diplomatic way of telling people like, hey, let me just show you why it's important, right? So sometimes, as you know, as a teacher and a teacher leader, teachers are like, oh, I taught it. Okay, yeah, but did they get it? And the data shows our kids aren't getting it as much as we need them to get it. So you can show them the data. So that's like the diplomatic, like, let me show you the roadmap and, give you some understanding as to why we're doing what we're doing, the why behind it. The other part, though, as a boss and as a leader, it's like, no, this is what we're doing. And it's currently my call, and it's currently a call from the district or from the network or from my instructional leadership team, or maybe it's some genesis that I had driving the work of a best practice that we should be implementing to get our kids to their fullest potential. But there also has to be some of that where it's like, hey, I need you to do this so you're in compliance, because this is what we're doing as a school, and it's a collective effort, and I need all parts of the machine working for us to get a real idea of if it works or not. If the one wheel is squeaky and one wheel is wobbly, we don't know our best time in a race because our whole machine's not working, So there's two parts to it. Like I said, you want to explain the why, but then you also have to explain like, hey, listen, some of these things are not really debatable. It's more or less we have to do this for what's best for kids.
Okay, so we're going to take a step outside of Houston now. If you could change one thing about public education in Philadelphia or throughout the country right now, what would it be and why?
I think the lack of equity as it relates to resources. I think the fact that one kid gets to sit in a public school where funding is based on property taxes. And as a result, they have air conditioning. They have a full Olympic-sized pool. They have, beautiful facilities and things of that nature. But then across town, maybe even cross a boundary of a county line, another public school, which is also a public school, has no AC, has lockers from 1970, has absolutely no pool, and has limited resources when it relates to like the teaching staff, things of that nature. So to me, I feel like the funding is completely messed up. And I think, I did my master's thesis on what is causing the achievement gap. And my ultimate hypothesis was the funding of schools and how it's driven by property taxes at the time. And I know Philadelphia does a little different, but in public school in America, it's based on property taxes, which means basically wherever you live is going to determine the quality of the school you get. There's some great reasons why it should come from, the people to pay for the schools because it's their school and they have to own it, ownership, and they should have a say and things like that nature. But the inequity amongst, around the country is just unacceptable.
I definitely agree because the zip code shouldn't determine your progress in life. And basically,
Absolutely.
Sometimes when they send out these percents and these numbers about growth and non-growth and best schools and not schools, you can zoom that right into a zip code and know who they're talking about by just a zip code without even putting a face to it.
Exactly.
So if you have a teacher who's considering moving into administration, or
I think a person that wants to get into administration has to, and many of us, especially teachers, is a vision. You have to have a vision for where can you help improve? Do you have, you see yourself as the assessment coordinator? If you see yourself as someone who's going to promote the school, if you see someone who's going to, fill a void in special education, you have to have a vision for what your worth is on that next level. That's number one. Number two, the next quality has to be, you have to be comfortable addressing adults, period, point blank, the end. You have to not be scared of the courageous conversations. No, what we're going to say, because you know all about it.
Uncomfortable conversations.
Have those conversations. You got to be able to just deal with reality, and you have to be able to separate personal from professional. That's huge because so often if you're sitting in the seat, it's going to come at you. But then you can't get mad when it comes at you because guess what? You decided to sit in the seat. So this is what it is. So when people are emailing you because, chicken nuggets are too cold or, there was only 3 broccolis on your kid's plate. You think it should be 7 pieces of broccoli. You can't get upset wondering why are they emailing me about broccoli? Bruh, you decided to sit in the seat. Who else are going to email about broccoli? You understand? So
you're the broccoli man
3
now.
Of the keys. Now you're the CEO of all broccoli.
So what is one thing you wish someone had told you before you stepped into your first leadership role?
Pitt really prepared us a lot for the principal gig. Okay, yeah, I think the thing that was not as part of the programming back then as it is now is self-care. I don't think as young administrators is self-care. Now it seems to be the new wave, right? But I'm 46. Yeah, I was
15 years of mental disaster.
Yeah. Chaos.
Ruining everybody, just riding down the street. I don't care.
No sleep, just road rage. No, I think self-care was not something that was really part of the programming for administrators back in 2008. That was not a conversation that was coming out a lot. It was more or less about management, more or less about getting the most out of people, things of that nature was very helpful. But the focus was on the organization. The focus was on the development of the curriculum, the skills of the kids and the systems. It wasn't on self-worth or self-preservation and self-help. So I think that's what we would love to instill more in people that are getting into the field now so they can start off making sure that they're not, neglecting themselves.
What do you hope for students to say about your leadership and your teachers to say about your leadership? If they pulled up on a former teacher or a student, what do you want them to say about you? What do you want them to reflect about your leadership style with them as far as being an administrator or just a person in the building?
I just feel like I would hope that my legacy would be that I was around, that I was touchable. I was at recess. You'd see me at lunch. You would see me at dismissal admission. You'd see me in your class, that I was someone that was a role model, but was a role model that you could actually observe and, really get a feel for how I care about them. And do I have a strong rapport? So I would hope that my legacy would be that I have a strong rapport with my students and my staff and my community. that, I had a special connection with them that can't be replicated if you're always in the office or you're just always out at conferences every 2 days or you're, not really making yourself available to the people. Are you the type that walks around the school and if you walk past a wrapper on the ground, do you pick it up or do you walk past? I hope that I'm the administrator that picks up that wrapper. I'm the administrator that if, our front steps are looking a little too rough and I know maintenance is working on some leaks somewhere else, I don't have a problem getting a broom and sweeping up the front steps just so it can be inviting and welcoming for our, visitors. But just not being above the grind. That's the big piece for me. Is will I get down and dirty if I need to? Will I help move tables in a lunchroom if they need moved? Is that a big deal or not? For me, shouldn't be a big deal. If we need to move this copy machine from downstairs to upstairs, I don't have to wait 3 weeks for the movers to come. Me and my guys, you being one of them, we'll just handle it. You know what I mean? And that's ultimately, you got to do what you got to do to make it happen, and that we're willing to do that. Whether it's helping cross people in traffic, whether that's, being in a classroom and improving instruction, whether that's having a tough conversation with parents that are going through a custody battle, I am available and on the scene and, ready to provide leadership in any area needed. But the biggest thing is the rapport, making sure that I have a rapport with my people.
Circling back to that self-care, what advice, especially since that's a direction that administration and leadership is moving towards now, which is really good, what advice would you have for a new administrator or experienced administrator that has a young family like you have, or has a family just in general, how to balance that and how to keep the main thing?
So to me, I feel like the most concrete directions I can give a new administrator is you have to literally find a day of the week and block it off. So for me, my day ended up being Sunday. Eventually got there. At one point in time, my first year as a principal, I remember working 7 days a week, period. I'm just working 7 days a week. Whether I'm looking at something, whether I'm typing up something, whether I'm checking my email obsessively, I'm working 7 days a week. But then later on in my career as an administrator, I realized if I'm doing that, there's never a time when I'm not either when it comes to my 4 children and my wife, that I'm not either finishing something and oh, hold on, y'all, I'm almost done, or I got to get back, y'all, because I got to finish something, so-and-so. So to me, that's 7 days a week. They're waiting on me, whether that's I got to finish something, so y'all got to wait because my career calls me to do this, or, hey, I'm not done yet, or, no, I'm not done with something. We got to get back and, we can't be at this farm for too long, or we can't be at the African-American Museum at DC. I got to get back quickly so I can da-da-da. Well, I started taking Sunday off. So Sunday, church, family, working out, whatever, it's off. So whatever you get done Saturday, you try to bang out your work on Saturday. Actually, I want to flip that, actually. It's actually Saturday. Saturday is my day off, actually. Sunday is when I'm kind of wrapping up loose ends, watching some NFL football. Saturday is the day I actually started taking off and saying hey, all Saturday, all down, period. And I think that's one of the best things. You have to have an actual time that you say, I have to unplug, because the work is the work. And the main thing has to be the main thing, which is your family, your health, your self-care, things of that nature that give you the charge to even be able to get back up on Sunday and tighten up some things to really be full go for Monday. So that would be one of the things, is you have to actually set up your schedule to plan to take a break, because otherwise your work ethic and what got you in that seat will keep you going, because you don't ever want to take a day off or an hour off, because how, quickly this job, needs your attention.
I thank you for this rich conversation, and my listeners will benefit from listening to this interview several times, especially because it dealt with all phases, dealt with education, dealt with life in the classroom, dealt with administration, dealt with teachers and students, and how to one way or a method of building and transforming a school. So with my last question, what are your short-term future education goals and plans as far as for your current place of employment and future? What's the future, Dr. Hall?
So, no, it's a great question. My job now is to continue to, prepare for the next year at Houston Elementary as a principal, but also looking into expanding my horizons and my administrative scope to positions outside of the traditional school building. So whether that's a assistant superintendent job or, a central office administrator, I feel like it's time for me to continue to grow my impact. So at one point in time, my impact was a classroom, right? And the natural progression of an educator is then, if you're a leader, your impact starts bleeding off into other classrooms. And then eventually you like lead a floor, and then you're a cluster leader, and then you're a building manager, you know. So I think that, you know, at one point in time, my impact was one group of kids that I was teaching, you know, whether that was 2 groups or whatever, it was that group of kids. And I wasn't getting to the kindergartners because I wasn't teaching them. I was only teaching 4th through 8th grade. Then I became a school principal where I am impacting K to 8, right? So now I think the natural progression is, instead of impacting one school, impacting multiple schools. So I think that's the goal in the future. It's about the right fit. But I can also see myself venturing off into other areas of life, such as, you know, pursuing business, or, you know, while I'm still an educator, or, you know, continuing to develop my children as they pursue their dreams. You know, Lee has high expectations of being a lawyer. Royal wants to get into media. Royce has his basketball dream. Chi-Chi's big into theater. So we're working with all of them, you know, trying to give them the shot that they deserve to pursue their dreams. So that's really my focus. At one point in time, I did want to be president of the United States, but I think I've decided against that now. So everyone can relax.
Y'all can take a chill for a minute, but we might circle back to that. And if that comes back, if you see him running, remember, we broke that right here on the Reason Solutions. I want to make sure that everybody understands that you listen to Dr. Lee, and he wasn't just talking. We had a conversation, but it was a lot of nuggets that was dropped. I always close out and say, stay curious, stay critical, and stay in the conversation.
Thanks, brother.
Peace.